There's actually a lot of weird, interesting drama about Jerry Seinfeld right now.
Really?
So he came out recently and made some big comment about how movies just aren't good anymore. And in my mind,
that's a strong chance to take, Jerry. You just made this movie.
That's what I'm saying. Welcome to another episode of Is This for Kids? I am Jonathan Bearded Blevins.
I am Katie, MrsRuvi.
And boy, do I have a banger of a question for you. A ranking question.
I love ranking things.
Okay, so rank, and you can do it. Your answers might be the same, but you need to answer this question based on child Ruvi, not current Ruvi. Maybe they're the same. Okay. But I need you right now to rank your top 5 breakfast cereals of all time.
Child Ruvi is a bad question because I was massively poor as a child. My answer would only be generic brand Rice Krispies because it's all we ever had. So
Rice Krispies made by
Kellogg's? Yeah. Yep. So I'm going to have to do this as adult Ruvi.
Okay, adult
because
Ruvi.
Because I never had sugar cereal.
Do your kids have sugar cereal?
Yeah.
Is sugar cereal for kids?
It's a childhood wound that my mom never had money for it. We were super, super broke.
And you're like, we're going to do it.
We are having sugar cereal in my house. I don't care if you start just whatever. Lucky Charms it up. Okay, so number 1, the greatest.
No, 5.
5. I'm so writing. 5
to 1.
Starting at the bottom. Number 5 is with the pirate.
Captain Crunch.
Captain Crunch.
Regular, oops all berries, with the berries, or peanut butter?
Peanut butter.
You can tell that I had all of the sweet cereals growing up.
Yeah. I'm going with peanut butter, but regular is also good with the berries.
Okay, yep. You just cut your mouth, but totally fine.
Yeah. That's why it's number 5, because of the constant mouth cutting.
Okay.
Number 4 is a cereal that no longer exists, but there's a version of it, kind of. There used to be a Frosted Mini Wheats stuffed with filling.
Yeah, it was delicious.
With strawberry filling. Yep. Now you can buy it as a Kashi cereal, but there's no frosting. So there's that. But so that one, the actual
4. Frosted
one is number 4. Number 3 is Reese Puff cereal. I really like peanut butter.
Yep, same.
Yeah. Number 2 is Crackle and Oat Bran.
Never had it.
Oh, I'm a big fan. It's like cinnamony, and you can eat it. You don't put it in milk. That's weird. Okay. You just eat it raw cereal, just straight out of the bag.
Yeah, anti-big milk, I see.
Oddly specific. Anyway, I know what that was. Anyway, and number 1 is Lucky Charms. Charms best
Lucky
cereal.
Charms made by General Mills, by the way.
General Mills.
Not in the movie Unfrosted, which we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
I looked up if General Mills bought Post, or if it really was just Kellogg's versus Post, or if that was even supposed to be a historical part of the movie. We are going to talk about Unfrosted here in a second. Are you ready for my top 5 cereals?
Let's go.
Mine is the correct answer, by the way. I know it sounds like it's a subjective question, but it's not. Number 5 is Lucky Charms, General Mills. Okay? It's absolutely delicious. It belongs in everyone's top 5. Number 4.
Did you see our producer just fell into the floor?
Because he agrees with me.
Oh, no, he doesn't.
Number 4, Reese's Puffs. I'm with you there. Chocolate peanut butter, absolutely perfect. Number 3, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And I don't really trust anyone who doesn't have Cinnamon Toast Crunch in their top 5. I forgot about it. Because even the milk is and now they have adult cereal, adult Cinnamon Toast Crunch, rum chata.
Okay, it's
like the milk, right? But it's like the milk of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, but with alcohol in it, which is not for kids. Number 2.
Tell me you didn't grow up in the Southwest without telling me you didn't grow up in the Southwest.
Number 2, Fruity Pebbles.
Oh, the worst cereal.
Oh, it's so good.
This is maybe just the childhood wounds coming back, but anything that's Rice Krispie based, not a fan. It's soggy in a minute.
Oh my gosh, what about Rice Krispie marshmallow?
Nope. I've never had
best.
that.
Oh, it was the clusters. Oh my gosh. But Fruity Pebbles for me was perfect because it was the best 10 bites of cereal ever. And then it got way too soggy and it was gross.
Really
but the first 10 bites of Fruity Pebbles, oh, perfect. Especially when you run out of milk and you use heavy whipping cream instead. Oh, delicious. Life hack, you're welcome. And number 1, Count Chocula. The basically chocolate Lucky Charms with better marshmallows. Okay. By the way, Lucky Charms, General Mills, not an ad. Reese's Puffs, General Mills. Cinnamon Toast Crunch, General Mills. Fruity Pebbles, Post. Count Chocula, General Mills. I had 0 Kellogg's on my top 5 list.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting?
That is extremely interesting. So whenever I got if I got a treat cereal as a kid, you know what it was?
Oh, what, Raisin Bran?
Kix.
So Kix is actually good. I went on this health kick in my mid-20s. I go on a health kick once a year. None of it has worked yet since I turned 18, but this one will. But in my mid-20s, I called my buddy Joel, and I was like, dude, I just am going to eat like a dog. Dogs eat the same thing every day. And here's what I'm eating. For breakfast every day, just Kix cereal. It's super good for you. It's like Cheerios, but better.
Sure, it's just corn.
It was so good. I was convinced that was healthy.
It's not.
Okay.
Not even a little bit.
There we go. Speaking of unhealthy, let's talk about the movie Unfrosted.
So unfrosted.
Would you care to explain the mess that is Jerry Seinfeld's Unfrosted on Netflix?
Okay. So Unfrosted is a 2024 Netflix film produced by Jerry Seinfeld.
Jerry Seinfeld is all up in the entire thing.
The whole thing. Okay. Starring basically everyone on Earth who's ever been funny. Ever. And it's this wacky, zany, bizarre story.
And Jim Gaffigan.
And Jim...
Just kidding.
Oh, Jim Gaffigan.
Just kidding.
I think he's so funny.
Me too.
Anyway, it's this like zany story of the fictional fight between Kellogg's and Post to come out with the first non-breakfast cereal breakfast item, what we would colloquially know now as the Pop-Tart.
Or the toaster strudel.
Those are not the same. Those are not the same. Anyway, yada yada. So they're both trying to come out with some sort of a Pop-Tart, toaster tart something that they could make, and they're having all these difficulties, like how do they get the gel to how do they get it to be shelf stable, and blah 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 blah. And they're racing to the finish who can have the first of these things. So they're both trying to develop it at the same time. It has a bit of like a space race feel to it, but ultimately, in my opinion, it is a very thin metaphor for politics.
Politricks.
Are they for kids?
Great. That was great.
So
well
good.
done.
Tricks
well done. Politricks.
Are for kids.
They are for kids.
Politricks
you
are for
shall. Family Guy. Family Guy episode. Sorry.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, that's not for kids.
No, Family Guy, not for kids. Simpsons, wasn't allowed to watch it, but here we are. So we're not a movie review podcast, but sometimes we talk about our opinions quickly.
I mean,
on these movies.
Sure. I mean, we're just like two parents hanging out talking about movies, telling you how we can help your kids with it.
This was, and I am not kidding,
yeah,
one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
It was weird.
And it had so much potential because of all the funny people in it, including, I'm forgetting his name right now, the guy who played Schmidt in New Girl.
Oh, I love that guy.
And his character was actually my favorite one.
He was the best part of this movie.
And
he was like a sycophant obsessed with Amy Schumer.
And even his character wasn't that great, but he's so funny. But I just thought with the star-studded cast, I expected just really good stuff and from Jerry Seinfeld and funny. And it just felt like one-liner after one-liner after one-liner, and like 80% of them didn't hit and 20% of them did. And the ones that did, like there was already another joke being told by the time that you understood that one, and it just kept going. And I still don't really understand the point of the film.
So,
but I'm curious about your political metaphor.
From a humor standpoint, I thought it was kind of funny, but in like a what the crap am I watching kind of show. Like, what is this? It was very strange. Kind of like when you first watch Seinfeld, people are like, what is the show about? And you're like, oh, it's a show about nothing. It was very much that. Like, it's Jerry Seinfeld's sense of humor that he just likes zany nonsense. So if you make it to the end of this entire show and you don't realize that this was about the most recent national politics event
that we
casting
can't call,
of votes,
can't say what it is because we want to get demonetized.
I'm not saying that we are going to get demonetized if we say Unitwe election hay, but that is exactly what it's about. You've got characters.
I don't believe you, but I'm listening.
Okay, so Hugh Grant's character is supposed to be Tony the Tiger. Okay. By the end of it, the mascots for all of the different cereals are storming the Kellogg's building because Kellogg's is about to have their Pop-Tart certified by the FDA to be allowed to, they're using the word certified by the FDA to be allowed to be sold. And in the meantime, all these guys bust in. If you do a side-by-side, like I need our editor to do a side-by-side of that guy that stormed the, whatever's not going to get me demonetized, the
Capital
K, the Capital K on January J X say, that go find the guy with the horns.
By the way, I'm with you there. I totally got that reference when I watched the movie.
Like the guy from the FDA or whatever that's certifying the Pop-Tarts is named Mike Punts, and they're running through the building going, hunt punts. Like this is very clearly what's happening here.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
In the meantime, Amy Schumer's character, who is a very obvious metaphor for Arnold Day, Umptray, is sitting there on the TV like, oh, we've already we've already put our thing out. We've already won. It's already on the shelves. I wouldn't trust anything you hear coming out of Kellogg's. And so then this is all happening, and then you find out at the end that literally in real life, the woman who owned Post cereal, was her name Mary or Martha? I can't remember. Mrs. Post, Marjorie Post. Marjorie Post built Mar-a-Lago. It's Mar-a-Lago because of Marjorie. Like, it's her house, and that's the whole thing. Like, it was very clearly that. And in the meantime, you've got, all of these celebrities joining the Kellogg's team to develop their winning Pop-Tart situation, but they have no relevance to anything. It's just celebrities weighing in on favor of Kellogg's, which is clearly supposed to be Idenbay. Like, it's what's weird is that they don't seem to be taking a position, like who's bad, who's good, other than the mascots are insane.
Yeah.
That seems to be clear, but they don't seem to take the whole invasion thing very seriously. They're not all that worried about it, which a lot of politics people out there in the world right now are seriously concerned about that whole situation. So I don't think that it is actually making a political point.
Yeah.
It just is about politics. It's very weird.
I see the lines you're drawing, and I can even agree with 80% of them. So you're convincing me, even though I went into it looking for those because you had made a comment to me about it. But I of course the storming, like that was like very obvious.
Yeah.
But then the rest of the things you're talking about are making sense. I do think they're actually making a statement, and the statement is that the whole thing is just a joke.
It's just a joke. Yeah, it's just absurd.
And not a really funny joke.
It's not a very funny joke, and it's a clown show. Like, that's the whole thing. You have this situation where these kids are all getting cell phones and things like that, but I was reading this book that was talking about, like, the right time to give a kid a cell phone.
Yeah.
And they're saying flip phones only until you're 14 and no social media until 16. But, like, have you tried to give a kid a flip phone these days?
I mean, the only thing good on it is Snake. That's it.
Well, I don't even think they have that anymore.
Yikes.
Yeah. I've actually come across this thing. It's like it's a Bark phone. Do you know the Bark app?
Yeah.
Yeah, they made a phone, and it looks like just a regular Android phone. So your kid's not going to be like, oh, Mom, I have a flip phone.
Sure, looks for everything.
Yeah, but it's so great for, like, you can slim down what their possibilities are. So, if you only want them to be able to call you and your wife, or if you only want them to be able to call their siblings, you can do that. You can put those restrictions on there, and then later when they're ready, you can give them access to the internet.
That's genius.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Not only that, but it'll let you know that if your kid is sending inappropriate messages or talking about threats of suicide or self-harm. So good and really very helpful, especially when I've got these kids in the teenage years.
Yeah, this is a must-have for parents.
Yeah, absolutely. But now that you've put it that way, I'm now 100% more in favor of this movie than I was before. I am not a politics person. I don't have strong political ties to anything. I do think that politics tends to make us all look like fools at some point, and if that was the point, they did a great job. Although I did see something on the internet where somebody was like, Jerry Seinfeld is openly anti-union, and I was like, what would that have to do with this? I'm very confused.
Yeah.
I don't know what that would mean here. But what their citation was for that belief?
Wikipedia.
The B movie. They were like, according to the B movie, they're very anti-union.
So that's what I was going to bring up. There's actually a lot of weird, interesting drama about Jerry Seinfeld right now.
Really?
So he came out recently and made some big comment about how movies just aren't good anymore. And in my mind,
that's a strong chance to take, Jerry. You just made this movie.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's a really weird thing to say. But then I'm like, well, maybe he said that literally to get people to watch this movie. Like, that's just a way of getting people to watch it. Like, movies aren't good anymore. I just released a movie though, so check it out. He's just been interesting in the news in the last few years, and I just haven't loved everything he's touched since the Seinfeld show.
Yeah.
But whatever. I just thought that a lot of the jokes didn't land. As far as whether or not it's for kids, it was crude. There was a lot of suggestive jokes. Most for sure that would go over kids' heads.
Yeah.
But like still too like innuendo, too much.
Heavy into the innuendo.
Yeah, like in a pretty dirty way that if they were old enough to understand it is just not appropriate. And I was bothered by this. I don't love cheap humor. And Jim Gaffigan is a known Catholic. Okay. Now he to be fair, I don't know how into his faith he is. I do know that he identifies as Catholic, and I know that he often jokes about his wife being a Shiite Catholic and
not that there's
a
anything
daily
wrong
mass
with that.
goer, etc.
Sorry, that was a Jerry Seinfeld joke.
Oh, it's all fine.
He identifies as Catholic. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
For sure. And I am a Catholic. And I did not love, he made a very clear, loud, it was the only line like of that part of the scene where he drops the GD, drops the Lord's name in vain. And I mean, there's just no way that whoever wrote that, maybe even himself, wasn't like, it'd be kind of funny if Jim Gaffigan said GD. Wouldn't, like, it just felt so cheap. The way he said it, the way he enunciated it, the way the camera kind of zoomed in on him, it was all very weird. Didn't like that. And that's how the whole movie felt to me. All the jokes felt like, we'll just do whatever we can for a little bit of a laugh here, even though it isn't that funny. And when you get some of the funniest people on the planet involved, I just was surprised that I wasn't laughing more.
Who did you think was funniest in this movie, though? Other than Schmidt, who was...
Other than
Schmidt, who was... poor man. He doesn't even have a real name. Nobody knows who he is other than Schmidt. I'm so sorry.
No, the Schmidt actor is Max Greenfield.
Max, you're great.
Max
Love
Greenfield. You. He is hysterical.
He's so funny.
I've loved him in everything I've seen.
He did great.
Yeah, he was the absolute best.
But other than him...
Who was the funniest character?
Yeah.
I'm going to go with... Oh my gosh. There's no way I'm going to say Amy Schumer. Oh my God, I didn't even realize. Bill Burr. Bill Burr's JFK.
That was hilarious.
Bill Burr as JFK was really funny.
Okay, there are some really funny... Like, I don't agree with John that it was not funny. I thought it was funny in a really unhinged way. I thought it was super funny. I really liked...
Hugh Grant?
Yes! Hugh Grant's Tony the Tiger.
Ravenscroft.
I brought them Henry the Third or whatever it was he's talking about. He was so funny. I know. I had a great time. Like, this is one of those episodes where you're talking about things without telling us what's going on. You're just gonna have to understand. They hired a dramatic English, what are those called? Like a classically trained actor to play Tony the Tiger, and it was very funny. Anyway, I thought it was funny.
Well. This is one of those things, and this is happening in some of our episodes lately, and I think it's okay to talk about, where I'm like, here's another movie out on Netflix, 2024. Clearly people are watching it. In my mind, no kids are watching this film. Why would they? It doesn't look interesting. It's clearly not marketed for kids.
Yes, it
so
is. It's
why
about
would they watch
cereal.
it? Yeah, but okay, have you seen Flaming Hot?
No.
So there's a movie called Flaming Hot that we should talk about on the show.
Okay.
In my opinion, this movie was trying to be what Flaming Hot was, but in a funny way. Flaming Hot is based on the true story of how Flaming Hot Cheetos were invented in America, and it's actually really, really well done, and it's 80%-ish factual from what I've read after it. But it's more of a drama. There's in it, but this felt like that. And Flaming Hot Cheetos, right? Kids love Flaming Hot Cheetos, at least
sure.
above the age of 8 or 9. And it's
my middle daughter likes to eat them and go for an hour.
But that's not made. That wasn't made for kids either,
sure.
even though it's about Cheetos. And I just think that movie is so much better. But I digress. So in my mind, I'm sick of saying this in a couple of different episodes where I'm just like, it's probably fine for 12, 13, 14-year-old and up. But why would you watch this when there's so much other content out there? There's just a list that you can watch of great stuff that's been done. And if you haven't seen Shawshank Redemption, then you probably shouldn't watch this. I know that's probably not for kids either. But
I was going to say, I don't think I would have...
I'm trying to think of fine. If you haven't seen Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem yet, don't watch Unfrosted before you see that. Don't watch Unfrosted before you see The Damsel. There's just better stuff out there. Yeah. And unless you're just literally glued to the television 50 hours a week, then you just don't watch this movie with your kids.
Yeah, but the thing is, kids get they run across something and they're like, Mom, can we watch this? Can we watch this? Can we watch this? Can I watch this? You can't always say no.
Yes, you can. I say no all the time.
Okay, sure. But if you always say no, then your kid's going to be like, okay, can I go over to Timmy's house?
No, you can't go to Timmy's house.
They won't do it right after each
other. Let me call Timmy's mom.
They're not stupid. All right. Kids can get around these things. And if you're always saying no, then you're dealing yourself out of the conversation. You have to allow yourself to be part of these conversations. Not that there is a conversation really to be had in Unfrosted, unless your kid has some really strong opinions about January J. Ixay. But Which maybe your kid does. That would be wild, but maybe. But I don't think it's a good idea to just flat no everything, because if your kid thinks dad's just going to say no, they're going to stop asking. And that's how you just shut down communication. If it's always no, it would be better if you watch this other thing that dad's obsessed with, then that's not how it's going to work.
The kids just ask, like I'm never, I know sometimes in the show I sound like I'm just always saying no to everything. I'm just not. Like, I stand by this, and I'll start sharing this more in the podcast. I think that people in general, especially kids, are spending way too much time on television.
Sure.
And so I think that there are way better things to be doing that are just more productive, better for you, better for the family, better for friends, etc. Am I demonizing my media? Never. I'm not. I love it. I stream video games for a living.
Yeah.
However, I do think that you can have a healthy balance. And in my mind, in a healthy balance, your kids just aren't watching movies like Unfrosted, because there's just so much else out there that unless they're literally watching everything,
but
then
you can't know what your kid will like. Like, this is what I was talking about with Planet of the Apes, or like, this is not a movie I care about, but one of my kids might. It's your responsibility as a parent to allow them to experience things so that they become their own person. So if one of my kids is like super interested in comedy, like they want to be a comedian. If my kid is Patrick Nevy and wants to grow up and be a comedian, then yeah, I'm going to let you watch Unfrosted.
Sure,
it's basically like a school.
But that's a very specific example.
Exactly. Like, but this is what happens. Like, in most houses that aren't yours, kids walk up to you and say, "Can I watch this random show that you've never heard of?" And you're like, I don't know, what's it about? And they're like, "Oh, it's about the creation of Pop-Tarts and children's cereal." That's when you have to have these kind of like,
right.
That's the literal point of our podcast.
Agree with
this
you.
Discussion.
But I do think that there are parents out there who listen, who are like, give me whether or not my kid would like this. And the answer is probably not.
Yeah, this is, so here's the thing. I would say that it's fine for kids 8 and up. They're not going to understand most of the innuendo. There's very few swear words in there. There is the GD, and you're going to want to talk to your kids about that if that's an issue for you. For some kids, or for some families, that's not an issue at all. It would be a huge issue at my house. My kids would be like, "Mom," because that's like worse than the F word in my house.
Yeah, Jim Gaffigan said it.
Don't
He's
say
the
that
family-friendly comedian.
Anyway.
Hot Pocket.
But anyway, I think that they would miss most of it. 8+ would be fine, but it is probably not interesting to them unless they just want to watch something zany, and in which case it's funny and goofy.
And then watch Ren and Stimpy.
Okay, but nobody has a gun to your head to make you pick one of them.
I'll never watch Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah.
My parents wouldn't let me. Shocker.
Yeah. So,
by the way, have you ever thought that Hot Pockets are just adult Pop-Tarts?
Everyone has thought that because people started tweeting that a long time ago.
I thought I just made that up. I'm not kidding.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I try not to steal jokes. So.
Oh man. I have like this whole thing when I used to do my cooking show on Twitch, when we would talk about how if a food exists in multiple cultures, it speaks to us of the nature of God, because multiple cultures found this thing. So like pierogies, ravioli, dumplings, yada. Something about that speaks to the nature of God because it shows up in so many cultures. And you've got Pop-Tarts, and those are all kind of in the same category. Makes me laugh.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
In my opinion,
raviolis are of the Lord.
Ravioli, burritos,
empanadas,
chimichangas, all cannolis.
Yeah. These are facts.
All cannolis.
Yeah.
So who knew?
Is a taco a sandwich?
Yes,
yeah.
it is.
It is. 100%.
Oh my gosh, we agree about this.
That's fine.
And hot dogs are absolutely sandwiches too.
Yes. Sandwiches take multiple forms. You know what? It takes all kinds to make the world go round, John.
It does. And people can learn all about the world and media if they go to isthisforkids.com and check out our Instagram and our YouTube and leave 5-star reviews on all the places you can find podcasts.
Yeah. And if you notice down here, there's a little subscribe button. I think it's like, is it here? I think it's right here. Hit that, right? So that they're subscribed. And then you can come see all of these videos. Comment down below. Say something hilarious about John's hats. Somebody asked about your hats.
What's up, brother?
Oh, goodness gracious. Hey, there's just so much media for us out there to navigate as parents.
I'm Jonathan Beard of Blevins.
I'm Katie, MrsRuvi. Let us help you decide.
Is this for kids?